So today I wanted to talk about what it's going to mean for my personal identity um, when I get married in a week or so. Um, I will officially be inducted into another person's family. I will be acquiring a new family, legally and binding. Um, uh, I've talked in my other videos about issues that surround family and what that means, and adoption, and just a lot of labels that associate themselves with what it means, by definition, to have a family, to have the connections, the bonds, the, the mental support that a family gives, the things they teach you, the habits that they instill in you, the mechanisms that are in your brain from birth because of them. And in these videos, I'm gonna explain why that's powerful and why the name, even, changing from Jennifer Haskin, who I am now, to Jennifer Mechke, who I am going to become, means a lot to me. Names have power, at least in the world where I live, in my brain. They have a lot of power. It means a lot for me to make that change. And even when people ask me a simple question, are you going to change your name? That's not a superficial question to me. It is not a subconscious set of thoughts that happen when people ask me that question right now. That is a very conscious set of thoughts. So the answer I give seems very awkward to a lot of people that receive the answer from me, because there's a lot of things happening in my brain when I answer that question for them, whether they can see that happening or whether I voice those thoughts. Because it's a big thing to change your name, not just because it's a pain in the ass, but because internally I'm literally stepping into another person. I am becoming Jennifer Mechke. It's not that I'm leaving Jennifer Haskin behind. It's that I am becoming another phase of myself, because I am taking on all of the things that involve becoming that person. I'm taking on a new father-in-law. I'm taking on nieces and nephews, and emotional baggage of the family. I feel responsibility for that. That means a lot to me, because my the people that I was adopted by, they did not act upon those bonds. And so when I became part of the people that felt like family, and that I became to, like, that I felt, and I was like, oh, this is what family is, then I began to learn, and they taught me what family was. And so now I'm acquiring this other family, and so now I want to act upon that. Like, this is what I know family is, so this is what I'm going to treat you like family. And so I take that seriously. So you get the idea. So that's what I'm going to talk about, or at least try and talk about, is how I feel about those things in more detail. I elaborated more than I meant to, now that I look at the time. Cut it there. Here we go. So, when it comes to feeling a part of someone else's family versus a part of my own, that has some roots in my childhood. Like, there are some maybe not well-grounded fears, but I had to find better places to be when I was a kid. I knew that my house wasn't a great place to be. It was empty. It was lonely. So I got out of it and I went to the neighbors. Or I got left at the babysitters for an excessively long time. Like my mom just forgot about me, or stayed late at work and didn't tell anybody, or maybe she went home and just didn't go to the babysitters and pick me up. I don't know. I just know that I got left at the babysitters until 8 or 9 p.m. So I ended up eating dinner with them, and that taught me that, you know, if I couldn't find dinner in my house, I should go to the neighbors or wander the neighborhood until I smelt something coming out of someone else's house. And then maybe go knock on their door and be like, hey, what you guys up to? Can I come in and hang out? Oh, you having dinner? Got any extra? My neighbors next door had a really nice porch with like an outdoor dining set, and I was the kid that poked my head over the fence and was like, hey, it smells good. You guys got enough to let me have some? You don't have anything for dinner. And my neighbors were all incredibly kind people, and they fed me, and they cared for me, and they made sure that I did not go wanting. And if some horrible sign had come from my house that there was a great need for emergency services, I'm sure that they would have acted. But none of those exceptional signs ever came from our house. But none of them ever really extended love. That's the thing. I was still not normal. I was worth feeding. I was a child. I was worth compassion. Absolutely. Absolutely. But none of them ever took me in. Um, one of them almost came close. She bandaged my wounds and was a close second in surrogacy of parent, but it was more because she was my mom's friend, and that was close to what I needed, because she kept my mom in the realm of sanity, which I think is what she felt was best for me too, was to keep my mom on as even a keel as possible and kind of keep my house on a functioning level, keep the lights on. So I greatly appreciate that. And I even have named my daughter after that woman, because she was life-changing for our household. But her family was not my family. And I ran into a lot of those things, those instances in my life where I was worth saving, but I was never worth readopting. Only my mom was crazy enough to adopt me. I don't know if I've ever managed to quite put that thought into words until just now, but yeah. There's always been this feeling that, like, only my effing mother was stupid enough, crazy enough to adopt me. Because I was never normal. I was never like other kids. I never, ever, ever, ever fit the mold of what a child was supposed to be. I want to talk a little bit about the people that I refer to as my pseudo-family. And these people, just to respect their privacy, I don't want to go into too much of their, formal names, but most people that are my friends and watching this know who, Steph and Sarah and Les are. But these people are, my best friend from high school, and her immediate family being her father and her older sister. And her father allowed me to come in and stay at his house through half of high school and into some years in college, and he let our friends come and stay in his house after he moved and rented it to us. And basically he became the parent that I had needed for a long time. And eventually, her older sister and I bonded over her kids and, the business she started, and a few other factors that just pertained to life, and the fact that I was just yet another fairly mature individual that my best friend, her sister, had brought to her, and what the long story amounts to of all of this is that my best friend Stephanie and I and her sister Sarah are the type of people that tend to attract individuals that think a little deeper about the world around them and care a little more about the people around them. And I had just not met, I hadn't experienced groups of people who had willingly come together on their own and created a family of friends, of like-minded people that just existed around each other as often as they could in a family type environment. And this is, once I discovered this set of people, that is when I began to experience family for the first time. And since then, I have begun to understand and become more at home in what everyone else describes as family, which I had never understood until then. And what was a precursor to this was living in Les's home with Stephanie and my friend Lauren, who was of no family relation to these people, who Les had also welcomed into his home and allowed to live in his home. And precursor to that, which involved me in no way, shape, or form, our friend Meg had also lived with Sarah as a part of Les's home. And other friends had done this. And so Les, who I refer to as my pseudo-father, has done this for many children and has many pseudo-children because he's opened his heart to many, many people. And he is kind of an awkward individual, and it's really quite funny because he's not great at expressing his emotions, and maybe it's one of the only ways that he knows to open his heart and show love. But he does show love. I mean, you can see it makes me emotional just to think about the affection that he has shown me, that it is not often expressed to me, and it touches my heart to think about it. So moving on, the thing that also makes me a little emotional is that the unfortunate part, no matter how special and honored it makes me feel that Les was willing to open his home, and that I can find a wonderful group of friends like I have that can teach me so much about the family that I never had, is that it will never compensate for the fact that between the ages of 6 or 5 or however long I lived in that neighborhood, and 16, when I was able to drive away from there, I wandered the streets trying to find dinner and love from people and families that were willing to show me compassion and willing to let me sit at their dinner table. But it's about as far as they were willing to welcome me and I appreciated it, and I lived knowing that affection for 16 years, but I didn't understand that there was more. And when I learned that there was more, it opened a whole new world to me. And then when that world was opened to me, I still didn't understand that there was more. Some things that I have noted about intention and family is that I have admittedly a big heart. I love as unconditionally as I can. I have a extensive memory despite my TBIs and PTSD and memory issues I have at this point. And it's hard to forgive some of the things that my family members have done, but that does not mean I don't love them. However, the way that I choose to show love actively to people is different for every individual. And the intention with which I show love to family members versus friends versus those that I would call family that may not be blood, or blood is a relative term for me. But in this video, I've described this circle of friends that I see as family, and those people are the people that I actively love as family as well. And so those people are the people that I have learned to express that family love for. So that's what I'm talking about as intentionally expressing this love for. And so what I'm getting at is that I have learned to understand the difference in what kind of love is expressed by those that are truly your family and how to express that love in return. And that is something that I think will help integrate this new family that I am about to become a part of. And I think that learning that I've done is going to be an important learning process, part of the learning process moving forward. I don't know, I feel like that is important to note, that I have this knowledge and that I have this capability, and that I'm not so damaged that I'm incapable of this. I don't know. I think it's important for me to note and to acknowledge in myself. And this acknowledgement is a part of the healing process. Full circle, the point of what I wanted to get at was that right now I struggle with entering a new family being invited? Or am I just storming the castle? Pretty sure there's a name or a term in the physics or chemistry world for a atom or a neutron that comes in and can't stop buzzing. So like something that comes in and just can't stop doing this, and so then everything else that's next to it starts doing this, and it just basically causes everything else to start shaking. And then once everything starts shaking, everything starts falling apart. And that's kind of what I feel I can be sometimes. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to like force myself in there and cause things to fall apart. And so that's kind of a worst case scenario of what I worry that I can do. And clearly a best case scenario would be to come in and be that force for good. But that's the thing, is this family has a lot of really good things going on, so I don't need to help them. So I feel like all I can do is hurt. I don't want to do that. Aside from that, there are these feelings that I've just never been worth taking on. I've never been worth readopting. And this is kind of a readoption process. This is me being welcomed into a new family. And are these people stupid enough to adopt me? They're not as dumb as my mom, that's for sure. They're a lot smarter. And yet, here they are welcoming me in. Are they sure they want to do that? They don't have a lot of time to reject me. My fiance's been given a lot of shots to like push me back away. I mean, we've got this kid together, so he can't completely get rid of me. But yeah, he's running out of time too. I have this, I mean, this is my anxiety. I really feel like everyone should just abandon ship and get the fuck away from me before I can destroy them. I mean, I guess, like I said, that's the worst case scenario, is that I'll destroy them, right? The best case scenario is that I'll make them better. So you can see why this tears me apart a little bit. A lot of my life, people have convinced me that all I can do is make things worse. And a lot of people have spent a lot of time trying to convince me that I make things better. And so there's a lot of devil and angel on my shoulders in this game. And I just have to try and convince myself that that these people that are welcoming me into their family want me to be there and have some faith that I'm going to make things better and not worse. And that they think that Jennifer Mechke is just as worth knowing as Jennifer Haskin. questions. Questions are always better than criticisms, guys. But whatever you need to say, it's a safe space. You can say it. Thanks for listening. That's what helps.